Abracadata's last foray into railroad gaming came around 1998-99 as they introduced 3D Railroad Concept and Design and 3D Railroad Master, which was this game where you could drive around the model train layouts that you designed in 3D Railroad Concept and Design. Just like the Train Engineer games, it wasn't a true simulator, but it felt a little bit more like a simulator because it was a 3D environment that you were driving around in. The sound was sort of alright, but you didn't have a bell. There were a lot of things that were crude about it. These are the controls in the help menu. And they give you a picture of your cab to help you along. This is actually quite useful because not all of the controls are intuitive. This was version 1.6 of the demo. I never got the full version of this because in the old days it was rather expensive, and this was on the eve of Microsoft Train Simulator's release, and Train Master 4 had just come out. So then they have this silly introduction to the demo. In theory, these scenarios all have these introductory blurbs. Strangely, they have a Russian locomotive in the background there. And you start with the map view to set up your game, at least for the demo anyway. So you pick the cars that will be in your train. The mission that they give you is very simple. You just have to move chemicals, at least initially. More missions, or more, I don't know what you'd call them, freight assignments, if you will, are generated during the game, but this is what you start with. So clearly what I need are tank cars, not gondolas. So I call up the pretty nice menu of rolling stock that they have. Some of it is mislabeled, though, like that so-called American boxcar there is really a reefer, and the locomotives are mostly mislabeled. They have U-boats and they have -8 40CWs, but they call the U-boats and the 40CWs -8 40Bs, which makes no sense at all. And they have some GP9s, which are not modeled very well, and some RS3s, which I haven't looked at yet. Their Amtrak F40PH model is quite nice as well. But here I just have to pick appropriate freight cars for this scenario. And none of the physics are realistic. So changing the locomotive will not really change how the train performs. There's the other train in the demo, which has got the U-boat on the point there, which they call it -8 40B, which is absurd. Anyway, when you go to play, incidentally, when you're setting up your schedule in the beginning there, you use the E key from the map view. Once you're actually playing the game, you have to use the C key to mess around with scheduling and cargoes and so on. Now here I have to get over to the other side of this town, Titusville, which has nothing to do with Titusville, Pennsylvania, I don't think. Titusville. I don't even know if you pronounce it Titusville or Titusville, because I think this is supposed to be a fictional town, not anything based on reality. So I have to get the train around this curve up ahead, but first through these switches. The switches I found are not usually aligned how you want them. And although the physics are not very good, there is a derailment model, so you don't want to take the switches any faster than you would in real life. So I take it pretty easy with these, like at most 15 miles an hour, and generally not. You'll see me slightly screw up ahead. All of this is a little bit awkward. also the slow speeds of this, which are realistic, have forced me to break this into 2 parts. So when I reach the 10-minute mark, I'll end this video and go to the next part. Ease the throttle back to bring it down to 10 miles an hour again. Of course, in real life, with the slow braking and everything, you would have taken, or I would have taken, all of this at 10 or less, because that's just how it has to be. But this is a model railroad simulator more than a real-life train simulator, so it's possible to screw around a little bit. Here I decide to take this curve at 35, and it turns out to be a little bit too fast. And what is realistic is the train hunts. See that? That's realistic. But I'm going to ease it back to 30 to make that less insane. There's my whistle post for the crossing up ahead. First I have to make sure my switches align correctly. And I ease the throttle off for this switch because I don't want to take it this fast. That's faster than I wanted to do it. I've seen trains take switches much faster than that, but in America you don't want to do that. Long, short, long. And the sample is not long enough, as you'll see. Just tolerate that. I'm continuing. Those cars are actually animated, if you look very carefully. That's a nice feature. It puts it ahead of a lot of 1990s era train games, let's say. It's not called a simulator, but I have to set up my switches here. For some reason, the default position for this switch is for the siding, not for the main track, which seems a little odd to me. I have to consciously set it. Using the map view there to make sure I'm where I'm supposed to be. And I use the speed back to 15 again. Just because it seems like this is also an industrial track, and you don't take an industrial track any faster than 15. So, the next switch is that one to the left that goes way down to another 2-track line down there. Then I'm going to have to back into the gasworks where I pick up the liquid oxygen, which is the cargo for this route. In real life, that would be a rather hazardous cargo. You wouldn't be using old steam era tank cars like this for that either. The FRA would be getting after you to use the very best state-of-the-art new tank cars, I would imagine. So that's it. See you in the next video.